So, here we are. Where are we this time? I'm leading you through all of these impressive venues, aren't I? I could be anywhere. It's a beautiful day. We're outside. I mean, I might have sneaked off to the south of France. I might have gone to Rome. I might have gone to the wilds of the American West. I might have gone to South America. But no, we're here in the UK because we can't travel, so we're doing the right thing. I am here in this beautiful garden of North Harrow, which has been specially prepared for you today. The grass has been cut, the vegetable patch has been weeded, and you can see two very nice herbs there, the rosemary and the sage on the other side, the first of which we probably will use in this episode. So what are we doing today, and why am I outside in the month of February? Well, it is actually quite a nice day. It was 16 degrees today, the sun came out, people are feeling a little bit optimistic. We may have some good news on Monday. Who knows what Bojo's going to do. Last person who knows what Bojo's going to do is probably going to be him. But here we are, we're going to cook for you on a barbecue today. Right, now the first thing I need to tell you here is this is not going to be one of those ordinary barbecues where you stick a nice steak on, you stick your sausages on and you do it like that. No, I want to teach you, together with my bubble family, Mr. and Mrs. P, the proper way of cooking a large roast on a barbecue. Now, let's just go through a few of the things that obviously you need. Firstly, we have charcoal briquettes. These are very good ones. These are the ones that have a little they're sort of shaped like that. They're very good. They glow bright red. They keep their heat. Excellent. Next, a little bit of wood. Now, why do we need wood for this? Well, the reason is that we want the wood for the smoke that the wood produces, which is quite flavoursome. I don't know whether you've ever, you've smelt a wood fire, haven't you? It has a particular smoky smell. That's what we want to help to impart a certain type of flavour to the meat. And to make that even more smoky and delicious, what we've got here are some bits of barrel. They're old bits of barrel that have been soaked in rum. Okay, and when these start smoking, that will impart an even more smoky, beautiful flavour. You can buy all these things. Now, why do we have all of these? Well, Mr. P is an absolutely expert barbecuer. Now, a long time ago, when Mr. P first came with his family to my home, which is in France, he brought along this funny technique of cooking a lamb, and at first I did not believe that this was possible. But he cooked an entire leg of lamb on a barbecue, and you think, well, that's just going to be burnt to a cinder, that's ridiculous. But no, it isn't. It's a little bit like the same principle of when we cook the beef. We're going to seal it first over a hot flame, and then we're going to take it off. We're going to rearrange the embers and the woods and the coals in the barbecue and so that they lie on the side only. Then we're going to put the grill back on, put the lamb in the middle, and put the lid on the barbecue. What that is going to do is it's going to starve the fire of oxygen, which means there'll be no flames underneath there, only smoke. And it's what's called the indirect method of cooking. The direct method, as you've probably no doubt already guessed, is when you're cooking underneath a heat that's directly touching what you want to cook. Flames, in other words. I promise you it works fantastically well because it cooks slowly over a period of about an hour and a half, and all of the beautiful juices stay inside the lamb, and the lamb comes out with this amazing smoky taste. So first thing to do really is to light the barbecue, but before I do that, no self-respecting barbecuer would be here without a little beer. So here we go. Terribly small these, aren't they? Ah, delicious, delicious. Oh, by the way, these come from a very famous brewery in Cologne, which is about 200 meters from the cathedral. It's called the Fru Brewery, and it's Kölsch, and you get a sort of, what would you call it, guys? A sort of round tray of about 8 of these, and they just keep filling up until you tell them to stop. Terrific place to go when you're 18, obviously. Now, my matches are in here. Here we go. Now, I've got this rather clever I say it's Mr. P's. We've got this rather clever sort of can here, and what that does is there's the holes in the middle, which you probably can't see with the camera. There's holes underneath the barbecue, right here, to draw the oxygen in, which will feed the flame and get it very hot. This barbecue, by the way, is one that's called a Weber. And they're made in the States, aren't they, Mike? Yeah. I have one like this at home in France. They're very common. You see these all over the place, especially this shape. And this barbecue itself, I think, was bought in 1987. Right. That is a very, very old barbecue, and it's still in perfectly good order and cooking nicely. So here we go. There we are. So I've just applied that to the bottom, to the newspaper at the bottom of the pile there, and hopefully that will light up nicely. I'll leave it like that. There we go, I can see it hopefully beginning to go right there. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to sign off this first part. This is going to really get flaming up, get going. And in about 20 minutes time, 25 minutes time, what we'll do is we'll take the can away, put the grill on and sear the meat. That'll be the second part. See you then. Right, so here we are again. It's about 20 minutes after we lit it. And in this sort of it looks a bit like a massive beer jug. In fact, I wish the beer jugs were bigger in this house. You know, after these tiny glasses, you know, what good of that? Now, what's happened is that the coals have heated up, and you probably can't see it on the camera, but it's all red hot in there. And what's going to happen now is that the pitmaster, Maître Parkinson, is going to come in and show you what we're going to do with these coals. Okay, come on then, Mike.
Right. Now you may be able to see from our overhead cam that what we actually got in the... So normally with a barbecue, you've got to have grate on the bottom, a metal grate, and you just pour all the charcoal out on there, and you cook your burgers and things, over above that heat. Now that's not going to work with a big piece of lamb, because it would just burn if we left it in there for an hour and a half. So what we do is we've got some little metal tongs in here that keep the coals to the two sides of the barbecue and leave the middle free. And that great big lid that Tom will pick up now, Mr. Edwards, sorry.
That's all right.
Now, what's the point of a lid on a barbecue, you ask? Well, the thing is, when this is all going, the lid is on, the heat radiates around the barbecue. There's some vents on the top, so we keep the fire burning, because obviously we still need to have our oxygen and air to keep the fire going. But the heat radiates back onto the meat, and it cooks it a bit like you cook it in an oven, but with all the lovely smoke and other stuff from the bits of wood and so on I'm going to put on. So, what I'm going to do now is, I'll just bring this up to the top. Can you see that, Claire? Can you see the red hot coals in there, Clary?
Oh yeah, just.
Yep. So what we'll do, we'll stick some of those out there. Some of those out there. This has got to go for an hour and a half.
Yes.
So we need to make sure we've got enough coals on there. Oops.
So you can see what Mr. P has done there, guys, on the overhead GoPro. It's all the beautiful red coals have been put to either side of the barbecue. Okay, so it is the coals that retain the heat and will give the length of cooking, won't they?
Yep, exactly.
And then the wood, which we are going to add now, probably.
Yeah, I think we'll put it on.
We're going to put on some wood now to create some immediate heat and smoke. And we're going to put the lid back on at some stage as well. The grill back on.
Tom, do you want to demonstrate the grill, because it's got these flaps to...
Yeah, so you see the flap here and on the other side come up so that you can access the bits on the side. It's very, very clever design. You want me to put it on? Shall I put it on? Yeah, we could, because you can access... I'll open them before putting them on and it won't get too hot. There we go. There we are, Mike.
Put some wood on it?
Yeah, so here's a little bit of wood picked up from the garden. Right, I'm going to put 3 on there. And put a few on there. It's dropped in, doesn't matter. Okay. Okay. Right, okie dokie. So that's done there. We're going to leave them like that for a little bit longer, guys. Okay. And when it flames up, we'll show you how to sear the lamb, and I'll talk to you a little bit about the lamb as well. Okay. So, here is our lamb. So, Mrs. P, can you see this? Now, guys, we're nearly ready to start searing this. Now, you remember that searing seals in all the juices. And it's what we did with the beef before we cooked it slowly. And it's the same principle here. We're going to sort of half oven cook, half smoke this lamb. So we're going to sear it first. Now, what we've done to prepare it, obviously we've taken it out of the fridge at least 30 minutes beforehand. We've rubbed some, I've got a sort of nice barbecue rub that I put on there. Made little incisions in the lamb with a knife, okay, straight in like that. I put a little bit of garlic and a little bit of rosemary in each of those. Plenty of salt and pepper, both sides, okay. Here's a little bit of garlic, okay, just like that. And you stick it in a little incision, in it goes. Now, if you can do that quite a long time in advance, let's say the night before, then the lamb will absorb even more of these beautiful garlic and rosemary flavours. So here we go. What we're going to do now is I'm going to sear it on the hot parts of the barbecue. Now, the handy Barbicam, you can see that there's now flame on either side. So we're going to use that direct method of cooking here, okay, to sear the lamb before we put it in the middle and close the lid on it for about an hour and a half. So it's going to sort of sizzle up here, I would have thought. Right, here we go. Excuse me whilst I go out of shot to put this down. Now, you're going to have to probably ask Mum and Dad for a bit of help here, because it's quite difficult to manoeuvre it. I've got a couple of barbecue implements that we can start using here, and if necessary I can ask Mr. P for a little bit of help. He's standing at the back looking very important, like a director. Not far from the white bottle, I notice.
Just making sure you're doing it right.
Okay, so when you're searing it, you just need to maybe just keep moving it around just a bit. You don't want it to stick to anything. So let's see what the underside of that looks like now. Okay, seared a little bit, that's okay. Going to put it back on that bit. We'll keep moving it around for about 5 minutes until it's nice and brown around the outside. Right, okay, so now, see what I've done there, guys? I've put that exactly over the tray that's in the middle at the bottom. All of the wood and the coals are at the side. We'll probably add some of our nice smoky rum-soaked barrel wood right now as well, which Mr. P is going to come and help with. And what we'll do is, whilst it cooks very slowly, when we put the lid on, all the flames will go out. Okay, because there's no oxygen. You understand that from your science lessons, don't you? And it will sort of cook with the radiated heat of the barbecue and in the smoke. And all the beautiful juices will collect in the tray, and we'll be able to pour those over the nice slices afterwards. So, I think that's okay there. Okay, Mr. P, do you want to give me a hand with putting the...
I will. So, we'll save the rosemary. Let's just pop a few of those in. Is it?
Yeah,
these have been soaked in water, so
yeah.
These won't burn. They will burn eventually, but they'll smoke for a long time.
Yeah.
And give a really nice...
It's an old rum barrel, is that?
It is an old rum barrel.
So that's 3 on that side.
3 on that side.
Okay.
And then a sprig of rosemary.
Yep. I'll put that in a minute.
Okay. 2, 3.
Right, rosemary right there, guys. Just dig it up from the ground. Look, isn't that nice? And the rum and the lid. Say goodbye for about, I don't know, we'll probably check it every half an hour or so.
Yeah.
For about an hour and a half, I'd have said, for, what's that, roughly 1.8 kilos? Okay, here we go. Now, you'll see on the Barbie, guys, is that there's holes at the top. You need to leave those open, or at least partially open. And Mr. P will probably come out and adjust a similar contraption underneath, in case he thinks that the barbecue is going a bit too quickly.
I would do, except they've rusted away.
Okay, well, there it is. We're going to leave that for a while, and I've got my holes about half open, and we'll show you the result when it comes out. Okay? Hello everyone. So here we are, back at the barbecue. It's completely dark out here. I don't know quite what effect you're going to sort of have when you're looking at me doing this. So this has been smoking away now for, what would you say, about 45 minutes?
Yeah.
45 minutes. Just slowly and surely, slowly and surely. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the lid off and show you where it's got to. Here we are. Now look at that. That's looking beautifully brown and charred around there. Now, people would think, oh, no, it's burnt, it's burnt, it's burnt. It's not. The actual heat here is very little. It's very little. It's smoking and just radiating inside. And on the tray underneath, there's a beautiful amount of juice, okay? Beautiful amount of juice that we're going to have later. So, in the tradition of many good French chefs, I just feel that the lamb might be a bit thirsty. So I'm going to give it a little bit of wine. Here we go. There we are. And that's going to sort of dribble down into the juice tray. Perfect. There's still lots of glowing embers around the sides. Our rosemary is still in place, so it's giving out that beautiful rosemary taste. And we're going to leave it here for perhaps another 35-40 minutes, something like that. The important thing is that it shouldn't catch fire, and that you let it rest for quite a while after taking it off. At least 20 minutes, more like half an hour, 40 minutes. So back the lid goes. Now, that's that done. Suppose it's now time to talk about what you're going to eat with this. Well, we're probably going to have fried potatoes or something like that, which we're going to do in a bit of goose fat and bacon fat, and add lots of garlic and parsley at the end, salt and pepper. That's a very good accompaniment. Obviously you can have other things depending on what you like. Where I come from in France, with a bit of lamb, you probably have beans or something sort of quite rustic. Now, there is one thing, however, that I want to introduce to you, this idea of having with grilled red meats, like lamb, like beef, things like this, chops, anything, and that is pesto. Now people think, well, pesto, you'd only have that with pasta. No, not in the least. You can have pesto with other things as well. We have made this pesto ourselves. This is completely homemade. We've made it slightly more liquidy so that we can use it as a sauce. Okay, it's got lots of beautiful sort of nutty flavours that go well with meat, and it cuts through the richness of things. So I would suggest that a really nice herby parmesan-y umami taste is going to go well with things like lamb and beef and pork. And we're going to show you how to make that in this week's life skill section. So we're going to leave it alone for another 45 minutes. We're going to go and do our prep, perhaps go on a quick walk, tidy the kitchen, wash up a whole load of old jam jars, that sort of thing. And we'll come back to you in about 35 minutes and we'll see where we are. Okay? Now, the camera is slowly turning to reveal my glamorous assistant, Imogen, or the Splodge as we call her. Now, we're going to make, well, I bet can you guess what we're going to make? I'm sure you can. What are we going to make?
Pesto.
Pesto. Now, pesto, traditional Italian dish. We're going to make a version of Genovese pesto, which has basil, it has garlic, it has a little bit of parmesan, and you don't have to add that in, but it's quite nice to add it to the pesto if you want, and pine nuts and olive oil and a little splash of lemon juice to bring up that flavour. But pesto is not just the green stuff. It can be made in all sorts of different ways. So pesto trapanese, for example, is with sun-dried tomatoes and dried almonds, or a mixture of that sort. Some of the southern French would claim that pesto is a French dish. There is a very famous soup called le pistou, and that is all the freshest green things that you have in your garden, prepared, put together as a sort of soup, a bit like minestrone, with pesto drizzled on the top. So pesto really isn't just an Italian thing, it covers many countries, but it's certainly very Mediterranean. Now, what we're going to do, you need a blender for this, unless you're going to be really brave and really cool and do it in a pestle and mortar. Now that's up to you. A pestle and mortar probably is a really nice way of doing it, but we're going to do it in a blender because it's very convenient and very easy. Here is my blender. It's not often that I use this, okay, except when I'm not putting children's hands inside them. Yeah, we're not going to do that, are we? No. Again, this is another one of those things where you've got to be a bit careful, okay? Just get your mum and dad to check it's all plugged in all right, because if it's not and it's not on the thing... I was making soup the other day and the whole bottom of this blender fell off and the soup just went all over the floor. So do have a careful check that your equipment is correctly working. We are now going to do that by putting this on and then switch it on. Yeah, it works. Yes, it makes a noise, Splodge, okay. Now, this is one of those recipes where every family does it a bit differently. I bet you there'll be loads of Italian people that say, oh, well, actually, I would put a bit less of that and a bit more of that, and actually, no, you shouldn't really do that. It doesn't matter. Do it the way you want. There are no quantities, okay? I've done it the way I make it here, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. So the first thing we're going to do is going to put in some pine nuts. Now, don't use pine nuts straight out of the packet, ever. You must always toast them. There's no point in using them straight out of the packet, they have no taste. You toast them to release oil in them, and that makes it very much more flavourful. So you're going to put in, oh, I think most of those.
All of them?
Well, why not? Excellent, thank you very much. That's our pine nuts. Now we're going to put in some garlic. I would say at least one large clove. Now I happen to like garlic quite a lot, as you know from the previous episodes, so I've put in 2 large cloves. Would you mind putting in 2 large cloves for me? You're going to pick it up with your hands. Do you want to scrape it in? Scrape it in, right here. So you made this before at home, have you?
Yes.
Imogen, very good. You want to help? There we go.
Yes.
Can you see? Well, let me just, if I get them to close to the edge like that for you, how would that be? Okay. Oh dear. I think Mr. Lillington Martin is going to have garlic falling through his ceiling. All right, that's up. Now that pine nuts and garlic already is going to be amazing. What else do you think we need to add, Splodge?
There are 4 other things.
Yeah, what do you think? Shall we put the parmesan in?
Yes.
Right, okay, I'll let you do that. Put all of that in. I would put it in with your hand, as it'll go through the... That is good quality parmesan, very important. You can make this with grana, but there's not much point because grana doesn't have as much taste, so use a good parmesan. That's a 30-month one. And
what about pecorino?
Pecorino you can, but you need to be very careful. That's not for Genovese pesto. They would have used parmesan, and actually a lot of people would say to you, don't put parmesan in it at all, but it's just one way of doing it that makes it quite easy to stir through the pasta. Last, basil.
Basil.
That's the crucial ingredient. You can also make, I've had lovely pestos with things like rocket, for example, or my father used to make one with marjoram and walnut and pecorino. It was pretty strong, but very delicious. Now, it requires a really good handful of basil. May I sort of take over? Which is basically done like that. Shove it all in. By the way, with a lot of fresh herbs like this, there's probably a lot more flavour in the stalk than there is in the leaf. So if you can avoid, don't throw the stalks away, because they've got a huge amount of potential. There we are. So that's our ingredients Right there. What are we going to do now? We're going to put in a bit of pepper, would you say? Happy to do that? Would you like me to do it?
How many times?
Oh, don't worry about that. Just shove it in. By turning it the right way. Yeah, is it? That's it. Excellent. Yeah, so it's quite stiff, that one. Let me have a little go. Well, no, you're doing well. You're doing well. Carry on. Now, I wouldn't put any salt in this because, of course, if you're putting cheese in, that parmesan is in itself very salty. I'm going to add a bit more. Is that all right? Yeah. Now, we are going to give this a preliminary little whiz.
Lemon?
Not yet. There we go. As you can see, because there is no liquid in there, that's not going to do anything. So the trick is to take this part off here. And we are going to set the machine going, and we are going to keep pouring the olive oil in until it reaches the right consistency. The right consistency should be a sort of loose paste. A loose paste, so not very stiff, but not very liquid. Okay? Should we do that? Would you like to hold this and pour it in whilst we get going? Ready? It'll take the whole bottle. Beginning to go. There we are. Keep going. Right, so as you can see, it takes a little while to get going. Now we're going to add a little bit of lemon juice at the end, and we'll put it on a quick whiz mix again, and it'll be pretty much there, I'd have thought. Now this pesto here, okay, a good pesto shouldn't necessarily be green, depends on what you've done with your pine nuts. Okay, so here you have a pesto. What colour would you say that? It's a sort of darkish green, isn't it?
Browny green.
Darky. Oh, let's smell it. Not bad? Not bad?
It's lovely.
It's lovely. You shake your head and say it's lovely. It's not convincing, not convincing. That to me smells like a pesto.
Yes.
Next time it needs a lot more basil. So you're probably twice the amount. Huge amounts of basil.
Yes.
Now there's a very interesting story attached to making pesto, because pesto is a very Summerfields thing. And nobody quite knows this except for me. But there was a man who used to work here, and his name was Mario. And his job title was the butler. And when I arrived at Summerfields a long time ago, the butler would greet you when you came into the dining room and sit you down. And he had a double greenhouse in the house where Mr. Jones now lives that was full of nothing but basil. And he used to make pesto all the time. So this is a little tribute to Mario, okay, who must be getting on a bit now. I think he's retired to Italy. So, Mario and Splodge's pesto. It's very nutty. So, welcome back. Now, we're about 1 hour and a quarter, 1 hour and 20 after we put this on. And I reckon that this leg of lamb is probably ready to come out. Now, so we're going to take it out now. It rather depends on the size. This is quite a small leg of lamb. So if you're having a big one, you probably need to leave it a bit longer. I reckon that when we take this out and if we let it rest for another 15-20 minutes or so, during which time it will actually continue to cook, okay, even though it's not under heat. After that it'll be beautifully tender and probably pinky red on the inside, which is quite how we like it. Now, if you like your lamb a bit more done, then you need to sort of leave it a bit longer. But we'll find out, okay? This is probably the one sort of part of cooking a lamb or anything like this that you've got to be a bit careful of, because you can't necessarily always tell exactly how cooked it is on the inside. So you've got to use your common sense, okay? So there we are. Look at that. Now that is smelling really rather good. Okay, so I'm going to take the lamb out first, and I'll put that on the side over here, and then after that we'll be taking out the sort of tray underneath and using the juices, and we'll come back to you in about 20 minutes time when we're starting to carve it and to see how it is. So here we go. Ask your parents to help you with this part because this can be a little bit tricky. Now, just here it is. Just going on it here, I'm pressing down. That's reasonably firm. Okay, so I think it's probably cooked enough. So I'm going to leave that there, and when we come back to you, we will explain to you how well it's been cooked and what the result is. So what you're going to do now, once you've extracted the juice tray underneath, you can simply put the lid on, shut the air vent, and it will simply go out within about 5 minutes.
You can use the charcoal again next time.
There we go. All right, we'll see you for the tasting. So here we are back in the kitchen where it's nice and warm. Here is our lamb. And it's been resting for a few minutes. Okay, you can leave it to rest for quite a long time. Okay, but we're going to start carving it now just to show you the end result. And here's what we're going to have with it as well. We've got a nice fried potatoes here and some celery cooked very simply, steamed if you like, with a bit of butter, and that is smelling absolutely delicious. So these here are the juices that I've collected from the roasting pan. Okay, they smell quite smoky, so you want to sort of be careful how you use those because it can be quite sort of a smoky flavour. Here is the lamb. Ah, look at that. Now, everybody has their way of carving lamb. I have to admit, I don't like carving it the way that normal people do. I prefer to carve it from the top downwards like that, and I hold it like this. You know, some people like very thin slices. Personally, I don't think that matters too much. Okay, look, here we go. I'm going to go around the top of the bone. Look. Ah. Now, what you can see is that it's beautifully juicy in the middle. As we get down towards the thicker part, it's going to start to become rather pinker, which I think is a really nice way of eating lamb. So we're going to carry on like that all around and sort of carefully detaching the bits like this, and it is smelling smoky and beautiful. Okay, there we go. Alright, now easy peasy guys, you can do this yourselves. Okay, first time you try it you're going to be a bit nervous, but I'm telling you, here is my lamb. It's beautifully pink in the middle, lovely sort of pinky clear juices. That is going to be so tender and delicious. I guarantee everybody will want to eat this. And the taste will be like no other lamb you've tasted before because of the woody sort of smoke imparted to it in the cooking process. So that is the way of cooking lamb or any other large joint on a barbecue using the indirect method with the lid on, absorbing all that beautiful smoke and
it really
flavour.
does stay juicy, doesn't it?
And it
people
stays
think
juicy.
You cook on a barbecue, people think it dries out, but it really
doesn't at all. And it's a little bit like cooking low and slow. You think, oh, it's going to turn out great. It's not, no, not in the least. So have faith. Try it this way around, okay? You'll love it. Now, this is what you're going to do. Before you rush out and buy all the ingredients for this and pester your parents to have a barbecue in the middle of February, you're going to stay safe. You're going to carry on looking after your families and working hard. Well done. See you very soon.